So now putting context as to why there's this much investment into compute. These statistics add context to that. So you realize that Africa is the talent. You are the talent. All of you here and many other students in different tertiary institutions are the talent. Professionals that are already in the industry are the talent. So we have the talent. What we need are the agents that drives, the agents that this talent needs to drive. So under 1% of global data center capacity is in Africa. Yet Africa is home to 18% of the world's population. So you see these statistics or these numbers are not matching. Why can't we have approximately, capacity that is also around the same percent, let's say 15% of the capacity. So you see these statistics are not matching, right? And only 5% of Africa's AI builders have reliable access to advanced compute. How about the rest of the participants? What's happening to the 95%? How are they going to run their AI workloads without the compute, right? So those are some of the questions that we need to be asking as we talk around investing into the infrastructure, right? And 7 million GPU hours of unmet AI training demand over the next 3 years, right? So this is a projection that for the next 3 years, between now and around 2028, 2029, up to around 2030, we will still have a deficit in terms of the compute hours that Africa needs. So someone has to build and run those engines, and that someone could be you, considering that we have considered a career around the field of AI, and that also involves the infrastructure, right? So what is AI platform engineering? So this is just basically building and running the platform layer so that data scientists and AI teams can train, save, ship models without wrestling with the infrastructure underneath. So this is what it entails to do AI platforms engineering. So you're basically you would be basically the brains behind putting together the platform that data scientists and AI engineers need to run their workloads seamlessly without having to worry about what is underlying that platform, what is underlying that infrastructure. So I'll give an example of an airport, right? We have the pilots, which is basically translating to the talent that we have on the continent. So that are the data scientists, the ML engineers who fly the models, who build the models, who train the models, right? We have the runway, which is the platform engineers such as myself are building the compute every flight depends on. So I, as an engineer, I built the runway, and that will allow you as an ML engineer or as a data scientist to build your algorithm, train the model, and have an output that we use for inference for whatever solution that you are trying to build. Then there's the tower, the control tower, which is keeping everything safe, scheduled, and running on time. So this is basically the underlying infrastructure that is enabling the pilots as they are steering their plane through the runway and taking off. There's always that infrastructure that is underlying. So just speaking of it brings me to the concept of GPUs, right? Which stands for graphics processing unit, which is basically the chip that powers AI, ML, and AI and your ML workloads, right? So 4 rows, 1 team. So you realize that in a team, depending with how big your team is, you can have a data scientist. I will speak for we have big organizations, big tech organizations. We have startups, right? So you realize that for a startup, you most likely do almost everything. You are the data scientist, you are the ML engineer, you are the software engineer as well. If there is platform AI, platform engineering that is involved, you're also one. But for big organizations, you realize that people would have specialized roles other than one person being the entire department. I mean, one person making up so many departments. So data scientists, they ask questions of data, right? They build and test models and find insights. Basically, a data scientist is an explorer, right? We have ML engineers who trains and deploys models reliably at scales. So these are the builders, right? So the first one explores, the next one builds. We have software engineers, which I suppose you're also software engineering students, of course, with specialization into AI. So you basically be building the applications that users touch. So in other words, I can assume or make an inference that you guys will be building AI native applications that the end users will be using. For example, it could be in the healthcare sector. Maybe it's a personal medical record system that is AI native. It could be anything, but with your specialization in AI, I suppose you'll be the makers of AI native applications that will significantly benefit our continent, right? Then there comes me into the play, which is an AI platform or platforms engineer. Basically, what I do, I build the compute tools, portals, and others depend on, right? So this is the engine room. I basically create the engine behind what you will be running or what will be running your models on. So please be rest assured, there's no role that beats another role. They win together, they complement each other, right? So if I can build the platforms and the infrastructure, basically the runway that you as pilots would need to run on before you can take off and begin your flight. But if there's no pilot in place, if there's no like an aeroplane in place, there's nobody who is going to use that runway, right? And if we have pilots in the aeroplanes, but there's no runway, it means that plane is not going to take off. So this is just emphasizing on why and how these different roles works together to achieve the ultimate goal, that is building AI native solutions tailored for the African continent, right? So Africa's own AI factory. So Cassava Technologies is Africa's first NVIDIA cloud partner. So we are the NVIDIA preferred partner in Africa. We are building and launching our AI factories in South Africa, scaling to Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, and Morocco. And we are growing our, our fleet of GPUs from 3,000 to up to around 12,000 NVIDIA GPUs. And the goal is to enable the African continent to build sovereign AI that African data stays on African soil. Instead of exporting data to other continents, we are simply trying to build the infrastructure for the African data to stay on the African market. So Africans as the architects of technology, not its consumers. This is what Cassava is trying to do, to make Africa the architects of the solutions, AI solutions, instead of just being consumers of solutions that are made elsewhere. So now I'm going to touch a bit about a day in my life at Cassava AI as an AI platforms engineer. So my role entails, provisioning GPUs, right? So I do set up GPU capacity for clients and partners across different platforms that we have, that is our own Cassava AI platform and our partner platforms. So I do provision GPUs almost on a daily basis. So I run the platforms actually. So we have, like I mentioned, our Cassava AI portals, as well as our partner portals, such as ISCO. So I do run those portals. I design new SKUs. So basically, I come up with services and products that we need to add in these platforms, right? I also do client engagements. That is, I do onboard clients, trying to understand their needs, working with the solutioning team to understand what the clients needs, then translate that into the compute requirements that they would need, so that we can be able to right size them and onboard them to our compute platforms, right? I also work daily in the teams that run the machines underneath, that is the infrastructure and the orchestration that happens under the hood of those platforms that you end up seeing and using to access the compute. I also do product work, collaborating with different teams within our team, from solutions, AI engineering, and product teams. So this is basically how my day looks like at a glimpse, but responsibility goes beyond this. There are a lot of other skills that you need to develop in the market, in the workplace, the likes of stakeholder management, the likes of clear communication, the likes of time management and prioritization, innovativeness, not waiting for your manager to tell you what to do and when to do it and how to do it, but being innovative and creative on how to get the job done. So in between these things, I do meetings, I do planning, I do a lot of other things that I do, but this is the core of what I do on a daily basis. So in terms of actually building tools people use, you need to log into some sort of platform and build the tools, right? So some of the things that I work with, the technologies that I work with include like Jupyter Hub, Kubernetes, where we do the orchestration, the likes of MIG, which is multi-instance GPU, MPS, GPU partitioning on these NVIDIA H200 GPUs. So this is some of what I do on a daily basis. So one worked example, I've done worked on Jupyter notebooks as a service for our platforms that are backed by our H200 GPUs, right? So one powerful GPU can be safely partitioned to so many users can share it at once, which is what we call multi-tenancy. So the concept of multi-tenancy. So please take note of some of the terms that I'm using in this course so that you can always go further and research those terms in your own spare time, so that you get an understanding and appreciation of the concepts that are around AI compute, right? So that's multi-tenancy, where these different users sharing the physical, they are using the same physical resources that are also, but also they don't interact with each other's workloads and data. There's partitioning and separation and security in place to make sure that there's no cross access of these people using same resources. So in other words, to make it simple, you have your laptop, right, which is a physical device, right? But then you all can possibly have access to that same laptop through your phones. So it's seated there, let's say in your lecturer's room, but you have your phones inside, like with you, let's say in your lecture rooms, and you are all accessing the resources on that laptop on your devices, but you don't see what the next person is accessing and what is running. I'm just trying to simplify the concept. All right. So there's Kubernetes, which manages the software across many machines. So nothing's fall over. So Kubernetes is now controlling and managing these bits and pieces as you access, so that nothing falls apart. So a student or a startup simply logs in and starts building, no hardware wrestling. So what we're simply saying, we are handling the hardware and the infrastructure part, so that what you simply do, you log in and start building. So that's what I simply do on a daily basis. That's how my day looks like, thinking through what can we do on this platform to enrich them, what can we do to make it easy for our students, for our startups, and all our beneficiaries to just have a seamless access to the compute they need to run their workloads. So we are simply turning raw hardware into a product people can simply use. So my focus as an AI platforms engineer is just turning the hardware that we have, which is the H200 GPUs, into a product, which is the AI platform that we have in-house, in place for you to use and build your solutions hassle-free, right? So someone may ask why sovereign compute matters, right? You realize that it keeps data within borders for privacy and compliance. Almost many countries, about 16 African countries now, have an AI strategy in place, right? And many, more than 16 actually, have a data privacy and data residence, policy somewhere in place. So that mandates data to sit within the same country if it has capacity, or within the same region, or if it has capacity, or at most in the African continent. So we are trying to make sure that Africa is a sovereign continent, and it has the resources that it needs to stand alone, right? Also, another reason why it matters, it tunes models to local languages and the local context, right? So you have Kinyarwanda in Rwanda, right? And you want a solution that can speak with Kinyarwanda, so that whenever, let's say, someone doing boda needs to interact with you and something, right? They don't have to be interacting with that one in that solution in English. They can interact that in Kinyarwanda. If it's the Uber app and you need to get a ride, you don't necessarily have to use it in English. Why don't you interact it with in Kinyarwanda and do everything? So there are many other solutions that we can talk about and reference, but the whole idea is to make solutions native to us. So having sovereignty and having our resources also sitting on the continent, that lowers latency and makes access more affordable. Latency simply means the delays between you initiating a communication or a connection to a resource and when you actually get a response to it. That's latency, right? And by virtue of having things that are resources that are on the continent, it also makes things cheaper because there are little things that are involved. For example, if you are to connect to something that is in the United States, your traffic is going to traverse through different pathways, subsea cables and stuff. Those things are also paid for in a way and stuff. And you, as the final consumer, you are the one who pay the final price. So it also makes access to resources cheaper. So it also grows local jobs, startups, and the wider economy. So if you're a data center that is sitting on an African continent, that is going to employ 5,000 people. That's employment for Africa, instead of that sitting in Europe where no single African or maybe 2 or 3 Africans will be employed. So many other things with access to computers, which is cheap, it means you're able to build also solutions in companies and startups that will further employ fellow Africans. Right, so maybe speaking of Rwanda, and so the first African country to adopt a national AI policy, aiming to become a global center for AI research and innovation with target of up to 6% of GDP from AI. So by virtue of you being there in Rwanda, this is one of the advantages that you have, that Rwanda is a leader within the African continent and is an early adopter of this technology. I've been in Rwanda about 3 times and stuff. It's unfortunate that I have not managed to meet any of you, but I hope. But I may have met some of you in one or the other in events like deep learning in Dabalashi. I was at deep learning in Dabalashi. If one of you will probably interacted in one or the other, I was also speaking on one of the panels. But anyway, my point is, Rwanda is a smart country and an early adopter and always enjoy the early mover advantage. So you are strategically positioned. You are in a place where your future in tech is very bright, right? So a career with momentum. So every scaling AI team needs this layer, right? So the bridge between AI teams and the infrastructure underneath, right? So number one, rising job in AI engineering, top LinkedIn's 2026 jobs on the rise for a second year running, right? So I understand you are mostly, I think, first year or second year students. So these are some of the things that you might be doing AI engineering, but it's a starting point as you navigate through your career path, think through what you want to do, and you should always have and know these statistics in your fingertips because they help you in making informed decision about your career, right? In terms of demand outstripping supply. So you see that there's a gap for data and AI skills, which is projected at 30 to 40% by 2027. So meaning that the AI skills that you're building will be and are actually on demand. The demand for them are rising. So you are not building skills that you are not going to use anyway. You're building skills that you are gonna definitely use some. So in terms of durable skills, you see that your cloud skills are gonna be durable skills because as we move into AI and focus on AI, these workloads will need to run somehow in the cloud because they need to access a data center that is sitting in Cape Town, South Africa, a data center that is sitting in Cairo, in Egypt. So there is somehow a cloud that is involved, and nobody now is, with AI, it's gonna be impossible to have physical servers on site. Why? Because you need your workload to be running in a data center that is seated in a remote location. So AI, cloud is gonna come into place. So these are long-term skills that if you get those skills, be rest assured, you are never gonna be worried about people saying that this is gonna happen, this and is gonna happen. AI is gonna replace jobs, this and that, which is something that I don't subscribe to. AI, I can't really say AI is going to replace jobs, but it's just gonna make things easier. And at some point, it might replace a few other skills, but there are always skills that human beings possess that AI may not be able to replace, at least in the near future. If you know how best to use AI, you are a top-notch talent that everyone will be seeking for. I was actually looking, there's a post that I saw yesterday about Google hiring a senior vibe coder. I didn't verify it, but it's something that I just looked at and started smiling, like, okay, we are getting to a point where people get worried about AI replacing their jobs and stuff. But they still need for someone who will be using that AI because it's not gonna do things alone. It will need your input in one way or the other. That is talking about the human in the loop approach, where humans still need to remain in the loop whenever AI is doing their things. So it's an interesting field, and you don't need to worry about your job being replaced by AI because AI is gonna be your co-pilot. You will be the main pilot, steering and flying the plane. AI will be seated next to you, and it will be your co-pilot assisting you, and you are the captain, right? So AI will be the first officer, and you are the captain. So what you can start building now, you need to start building your skills and get comfortable with some things like Python and command line. So you realize that you make use of command line interface much in the industry and stuff. So start now, be comfortable with using this command line. You need to be comfortable with using Linux, Mac OS, the likes of version control through Git. Those are the things that you'll be interacting with as you come to the industry. It's unfortunate some of us started doing much of these things after graduating already. But here's an opportunity. You still have 2-3 years ahead of you before graduating. If you graduate so proficient and flexible with these technologies, you realize that you'll be having a competitive advantage over your fellow students who doesn't have this. And as companies look for the talent, those are some of the things that they'll be looking for. They won't ask you to do simple things. They want things that are practical. I understand that some of these things, they might not be covered in your curriculum, but know this, it has to be like that. It doesn't have to be covered everything in your curriculum. School and stuff is there for you to introduce you to concepts, but much of the work is gonna be sitting on you. It will be your responsibility. So don't say we didn't tell you. Don't come 5 years later blaming Marvin that Marvin didn't teach you a certain concept and stuff, because it's not his responsibility. His responsibility is introducing you to the field, giving you the concepts, the starting point, the foundation, the fundamentals, and you have to go that extra mile to look for more information, look for more knowledge, look for more skills. Right? So the likes of containers, Kubernetes, so start small, build a small project. Think of an idea, start building a small project. Think of how can you integrate version control into building that small portfolio project. Think of how you can, how cloud is involved in that thing. Think of how Kubernetes orchestration, containerization come into play into that project. So as you build the project, you know that you'll be learning these skills along the way, and at the end you'll be having something to showcase, saying this is what I've done, this is what I've done, and it's what to get you the job. These days, especially in tech, nobody's going to look for at your CV. A CV is just a procedure. If you ask to submit a CV, but people on that CV, what they're looking for, projects that you have done, links to your portfolio. You should have a portfolio. If you graduate without any portfolio of projects, be rest assured, finding a job is gonna be difficult for you. You might find a job, but not the best job. Those who find the best jobs are the people who have a portfolio of projects. They have a GitHub that is projects that are there, that are up and running. If someone can open it, they have reference of what they do. They have a project that is not just code sitting on GitHub, but it's actually a mobile app that is running and being used by a client. You don't need to graduate and start a startup to be running those things. You can start now. Your fellow students, identify each other. Identify someone who is potential, someone who is so good at what they do and stuff. Talk to them, say, guys, can we come up with something? Can we work on a product? Can we even register a startup and start running this startup? You need to start now. If I'm to tell you, I registered my first company when I was doing my my 3rd year of my 4-year honors degree. That's when I registered my first company. And AI SO team is now my 3rd organization that I have founded, right? So through the process, I learned a lot of things. I learned leadership, I learned resilience, I learned innovation and all those things. So don't wait to graduate. The time is now. Think of things that you can do together, collaborate with others. It also helps you build those soft skills that you need to thrive on the job market, right? So this is exactly what I was just mentioning right now. You don't need to do it alone. Embark on the journey with others. So you see there are platforms such as the Cindy platform, which is of 100,000, data enthusiasts. Just go there, join into a competition, identify someone else who is also taking the same competition, reach out to them, ask them if you can collaborate, team up, and learn from each other. There are events such as the Deep Learning Indaba. I understand it might be too late for some of you, for this year, since applications have already closed, but go on the Deep Learning Indaba website, subscribe to the newsletter, so that when the next call for applications open for next year, you apply in time and get considered. For those who will be making it to deep learning in Indaba this year, I'll meet you in Lagos. I'll be there. Be on the lookout and be ready to meet. Always feel free to come through or reach out. We can meet, we can discuss. If you need some advice, you need career guidance, I'll be happy to interact with you. There are Indaba X's, which are local events within your countries. You might not be native to Rwanda, but whenever you go back to your country after your studies, there's always an Indaba X in that country. There's also Indaba X Rwanda. Please get involved in those things, because there are communities that help you shape who you become in the AI field. So just trying to bridge the gap between the industry and the classroom. So you need to build in public, right? Put your work out there. If you have a solution that you're building and is sitting on local host, it's as good as you building nothing, because if nobody can access it and use it, excuse me, then you're doing nothing. So build in public, have your work there on GitHub, right? And be on LinkedIn, build a profile. I posted my LinkedIn, link to my LinkedIn profile in the chat. If you can look at my LinkedIn profile, it can give you a benchmark or a starting point on what you need to put out there. Be someone who blog and post about your journey. You're learning something new. Start today from this particular competition, session that you are having. If you can take a screenshot during this session that you are doing, jot down whatever your takeaways from this call. After this call, go on LinkedIn, post. Feel free to tag me. I'll like and repost. I'll comment. You're simply putting yourself out there. You're simply telling people that you are making an effort into your career development. You are learning something new. And if I'm to be honest with you, in 2024, I got a job offer that I didn't apply for. Someone simply looking at my profile, looking on things that I post in the content that I interact with. They reached out to me, offered me a job that was even paying more than the job I had at the time. So this is the advantage of putting yourself out there. Don't build in silence. Don't build on your local host. Put your work out there. So enter a competition this semester, like I mentioned, of this indie platform. Go there. There are open hackathons that are running there. Just join one competition. Let's say this semester, I understand you're actually doing things to do with AI specialization. When you're doing machine learning, you're introduced to a concept in class. Go there and develop that concept. If it's linear regression that you've been taught, go there on the Zindi platform, look for a competition that applies linear regression and start building, solve that competition, and you are building up on those skills. So break real things safely, find community, I mentioned about that, ship the project end to end, try to build an end-to project, not a project that sits on a local host, but a project that you put its code on GitHub and have it hosted on a link that is accessible by someone. Don't build code, build products. So a product will have a graphic user interface and allow people to use it, not just code that is sitting on GitHub. Gone are the days. If you ask Marvin, I think during his time studying, that was probably even during my time studying some 5-6 years ago, when I was doing my undergrad, that has been the vibe. Do you have something on GitHub, something like that? But gone are the days. It's now time to build products that people can use, right? So your move, you can start today. This doesn't need you to wait until tomorrow or next time. Soon after the call, go on the Zindi platform. There are competitions that are there. For example, one good one, my favorite one for beginners, financial inclusion in Africa. Go join that competition, start hacking, start solving. Join a competition, join a community, the likes of Indaba X's. It can also be your student clubs on campus. Join them, form those clubs, interact with each other, teach each other things. Start building something this week, and by the end of the year, you'll be having a portfolio of solutions that you have built. So thank you so much for taking the time listening to me. And this is the end of my presentation. I'll open up the floor for questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Robert. There was a question in the chat When tuning models to local contexts, what are the primary challenges in collecting high quality training data for local African languages? This is from someone called John.
Great. This is a great question, and thank you so much for the question. So one of the dependencies that we have in terms of building local solutions and fine-tuning is data. With data dependence, so you might see that you might not get enough data that will allow you to fine-tune that solution to your local context. So that's one challenge. The second challenge that you have is compute. You need compute, but compute is expensive. So you need to be able to have compute to do the fine tuning. So be on the lookout for things like ISCA. ISCA is an organization that is also giving, compute grants. So look them out. Look at their website. They're actually based in primarily operating from Rwanda as well. So apply for these grants. Then look for data sets on platforms like Hugging Face and stuff. That will help you to as you do your fine tuning. But in summary, compute and data are some of the challenges that we have.
All right. As we wait for someone else to ask questions, maybe let me ask a question on their behalf. Is it still relevant to study computer science, software engineering? Are you still hiring guys like that in the organizations you've been around with? Yeah.
Marvin, that is a very good question. A very good question. So you realize that those concepts, software engineering concepts, are still very, very, very much relevant. Because if you can see, I really put much emphasis on building products other than running code. So if you are to just train a machine learning model and you put it on GitHub and stuff, people are not going to use a machine learning model. They are going to use a product that will incorporate machine learning and the AI within it. So if you don't have software development skills, software engineering skills, how are you going to build an end-to-end product without that knowledge? So you probably need to hire someone to do that. And someone is you. That someone is you who is doing software engineering. So you realize that if you have software engineering skills, software development skills, AI engineering skills, you are someone who is able to build an end-to-end product without needing to outsource much of the skills. So the answer is a big yes, which is bold, actually, a big bold yes. These skills are still relevant. Thank you, Marvin, for that great question.
Thank you. I know they were asking themselves this question. Yes,
No,
Elvis.
don't feel bad about software engineering when someone talks about doing an undergraduate degree in AI and stuff. Do your software engineering, but then also specialize in AI, so that on top of the software engineering, you realize that you actually have a competitive advantage like on them, because they know AI and algorithms, but they don't know the underlying skills that you have that are relevant in building product, that is software engineering. So you actually have a competitive advantage over someone doing AI and machine learning.
Thank you. I saw a hand. Elvis, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Marvin, and thank you, Mr. Roberts, for this great session. Quick one, you've been mentioning how compute data one of AI's greatest challenge in the industry, right? So what is your take on local compute then? And considering, I mean, I know in Nigeria recently, the federal government has placed like a policy where fintechs are not allowed, fintechs are given like a deadline to move all their data from platforms like Amazon, AWS to local providers, right? So, so basically, what's your take on local compute? Does Africa have like do you think Africa has like a market for that?
Okay, great. That's a very, very good question that is now touching on the concepts that I have already spoken in this session. So the concept of sovereignty and the concept of, the issue for policies on data residence, data residency and locality and stuff. So you realize that that's why we have companies like my own employer, Cassava AI, focusing on trying to build this infrastructure for the African continent. So in one way or the other, we are moving towards sovereignty and having our workloads running on the compute that is existing in our local context. But You need that. You need to see that. You will see that our government's probably at some point needs to slow down a bit and be considerate of the fact that, in as much as they want these things to be running on the local computer, we may not have it during the time they want it to have. So, as then put this, so this is why there is need for interactions between and the industry, the academia, science, and the politician. A politician who is just seated in parliament and doesn't interact with industry and science is risk making policies that will not work in their own country, because they are making a policy on having people on having workloads and of course these regulated industries, the likes of healthcare and fintech, having their workloads running on local compute. But if there's no local compute, if there's no AI factory and a data center in the country, how would that policy be enforceable? So you realize that there's need for that close interaction, such that the policies that are being made, they translate and mirror the infrastructure that is existing.